So in this video, we're going to discuss two extremely useful features of GitHub, namely fork and clone. So let's start with fork. Now basically the fork feature helps us to create a copy of a repository on GitHub that doesn't belong to us. And once we fork the repository, the project copy created is then entirely owned by us, at least in terms of putting the code into our account. So why would we actually do that? Why would we fork? Well, forking is usually done when we're interested in owning a copy of the project, perhaps just to play around with the code, to sort of use the code. And it's probably something that may be of great interest to you to sort of just play around with the code. Or the other alternative might be to go one step further and contribute to the original project that we have forked. So if you decided you feel that you can sort of add some features and capabilities to that project. So let's go ahead now and I'll show you how to fork a project of your choice so that we can actually see how to go about it. So the first thing we need to do is search for and then identify a project on GitHub that we want to fork. So let's go ahead and do that. Now you may obviously know the name of the project that you want to work on. If that's the case, you'd literally just go to the folder, the location, the URL for that project. But I'm going to presume here that you're going to be looking for one. Alright, so first things first, click on the little octo icon for GitHub to go back to the main page. Alright, so now that we've reached this page, what we need to do is come over here and click on Explore GitHub. And then we can just do a search, and I guess we could have done the search on the previous screen as well. We can do the search for a topic of interest. So if we're looking to perhaps contribute or take a look at other projects relating to, say, Android, we could actually type Android in there and press enter. And that's going to find information about Android projects. And you have got this search capability down here. You can see there's 415,000 repositories, and you could break things down here perhaps to be more specific with your searches, to choose the language for argument's sake, like Java. And that's going to hone down the results. You can see we've got less results now, and we can go through and do an advanced search even. You can find a particular project by a particular user, created on a specific dates, written in a particular language, and you can even do things like figure out one that's got how many stars, how many times it's been forked. And what that means is that a higher number would mean that more developers have decided to do what we're doing, which could indicate that it's a very useful project to look at. And you can see we've got quite a few other options here that we can actually search for and use to decide or to find the project that we're interested in. And I'm just scrolling down, you can see there's quite a few there. But I'm going to go back because we don't really need to do an advanced search. I'm just going to choose just one project to show you how to do it. And let's just choose this first one, just purely because it's the first result here now. So I'm going to click on that to open it up. And you can see this has got some interesting features, even if it is now getting a little bit old. You can see that people have clicked on a watch button before, and you can do that in GitHub, by the way, to track projects. And people have started to indicate that they like it. But also here it's showing us on the right hand side that 2,500 developers have at one time or another decided to fork this project. So obviously that's something that is pretty cool. There's a lot of people have had some interest in this particular thing. Alright, and we can go down then and have a look at the link. And it's usually good to see the README to have a bit of a look and find out what it's about. And you can see down here it's telling us that this repository contains complete code for Android blog posts on hmkcode.com. So probably not the ideal thing for us to choose, but let's just do this anyway because it's just a test of how we go about the process anyway. Alright, so at this point now we're at the main home page of the project that we're interested in. And obviously I've clicked on the README, so really the only thing left to do now is come over here and click on fork so that we can do the same. We can take a copy of this and start using it ourselves. So I've clicked on that button, and you can see over here now in the top right hand corner, Tim Bachalko, my account, / and then the name of the repository, which was the same as the original one. And then notice under that it's got forked from, then the name of the username and the name of his repository. So you can see that I've now got a copy of that repository. And it says here also this branch is even with HMK code master, which tells us that we're completely up to date with his repository, which of course would make sense because we've only just now effectively done this fork, which is taking a complete copy of the project, of the repository. And looking up here in the URL, you can see the URL now is not the URL from this project, but it's my URL from my account, tim-bachauka/Android. And that's because we've taken a copy of his project, but we've forked it to create another copy of that project effectively that I can use and modify and perhaps enhance in some way. All right, so at this point now we've done just that. We've forked the project. So what would we do at this point now? Now, well, obviously we'd probably want to have the source code to this project on the local machine so that we can play around with the code, perhaps test things out. And if this was a real sort of application, we might want to start testing the application and making changes to it, so on and so forth. And ultimately, we might even want to contribute these changes back to this original project. So what we need to do is, in order to have the project right onto our machine, we've got an option for cloning a project. Now over here on the right hand side, you can see we've got this option to clone or download. So we can either download the project source code as a zip file, or we can bring it right under version control by cloning. So downloading I won't go into because it's literally just going to download a zip file. We're really more interested in cloning, which of course is a feature of Git. So let's go ahead and click on clone. So I've got the option here again to clone with HTTPS. And over here I can just hover and I can click on copy to clipboard. That's copy that URL. So we're going to be able to then use that at the command prompt to basically clone this entire repository onto our local machine. All right, so let's do that. Let's go back to a terminal, to a shell, and do that now. So I'm going to open a shell. I'm going to go back to my standard folder that we've been using, the main root folder, git repos home. And we're now going to issue that command. So it's git space clone space, and I'm going to paste in that URL. Press enter, and you can see it says cloning into Android. So it's automatically creating the subfolder because we've navigated to the root folder where we've been storing all the, or we've been creating subfolders for our various repositories. So you can see it went through, and the output mostly relates to the general housekeeping tasks, similar to what we've been that we've seen when we executed the push and pull commands in a previous video. And now this project's not particularly big. It's got 664 objects. But obviously, depending on the size of the project, it could be huge. It could be literally in the thousands. All right, so let's have a look. So you can see we've got this Android folder now that's been created. So I can type cd space Android. I can have a look in there. And there's the various files that relate to this project. And just to be clear, I can do an AL, ls space AL, to see it in a better order there. You can see the .git subfolder there. Then we can go ahead and check the branch status. So git space branch space -a. So you can see we've got the master branch, which we've currently got, and then the origin/master, which is telling us that in this case, it's come from GitHub. All right, now the other thing we can just do, we can type in git space remote space -v, and it gives us the location for both fetch and push, which of course is the repository from GitHub that we've only just now cloned. Now, one final thing that I want to add here, you don't always need to fork and then clone. What you can do, if you decide to, is you can just clone the project directly without going through the process of forking it to your own account as well. So keep in mind that you can do that, and that's especially useful if you just want to have a quick look at the project and check it out on your machine. So you don't necessarily have to fork it to your account. That would only be if for some reason you're looking at perhaps doing something different with the code, and you want to sort of end up with a new version of something or something along those lines. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed that and got a lot out of it. In the next few sections, we're going to start now switching over to a GUI side of things. So we're going to start looking at how to do essentially the equivalent of what we've done so far from the command line, but using various tools such as IntelliJ, Android Studio, as well as Eclipse. So I'll see you in the next section.